The United Democratic Front has launched its manifesto for the upcoming elections. Juniour Khumalo covered the event and joins me live now. Juniour, good to catch up with you. Key highlights for you. I understand you have a guest that will walk us through that manifesto from earlier on.
Indeed, Hugo, I do have a guest with us who is going to walk us through that manifesto that was launched by the UDM this morning, and that is the UDM leader, Bantu Holomisa. But before we go into that, just to speak about some of the key highlights that he highlighted when he delivered that manifesto launch, he spoke about a zero tolerance towards corruption. That was the main theme around this manifesto launch by the UDM. The UDM was one of three parties to launch their manifestos today. We know that the PAC also launched its manifesto in Soweto, and then the Freedom Front Plus also launched its manifesto. But to get to that key theme of zero tolerance towards corruption, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Holomisa. You spoke about how South Africans were actually complicit in this by continuing to vote for a party that does not basically deal with corrupt leaders. Can you please expand on that?
If you visit the Zondo Commission's findings, you will emerge out after having read that report with a picture that tells you that the looting of state resources are done by the party itself, which is running South Africa today. That is the ANC. Over and above that, their leaders have been fingered in that report. Therefore, there is no way that we can address the issue of corruption and expect the current leadership of government to address that. They cannot cleanse themselves out of this quagmire. Therefore, the voters have to vote for other political parties so that we can clean our country and begin to rebuild it. Never again shall we put all our eggs in one basket, because it has proven to be a breeding corruption.
And speaking about just cleaning that corruption, not only the voters, but also the National Prosecuting Authority has that responsibility of doing that. You spoke about the NPA and how it has failed to prosecute some cases. You named the Ace Mahashule case as well as the Timothy or Omotoso case as well. What are some of the challenges that the NPA is facing, and what would you do if the UDM was actually put in power and in charge of the NPA?
The NPA, you will only know what are the challenges of the NPA when you are in government. Currently, you can see that there is a political interference in some of the cases. There is no way that in the last 30 years, the only higher official who was prosecuted, I think it was the former commissioner of police then. The rest of the people are in the cabinet who have been fingered by the Zondo Commission. The rest of the people who have appeared in court, some of them, their cases are always postponed. So until we remove this government and get to know what is the cause for the delays in prosecuting people, but it's clear that the ANC is putting the interest of the ANC ahead of the country.
You spoke a lot about the UDM trying to challenge for power, but that the UDM is also aware that it's possible that not one party is going to lead the country following the May 29 elections. But the UDM did not say who it's willing to go into coalition with after these elections.
The official position of the United Democratic Movement is that we don't get involved in or put preconditions for us to get into government. We have never done that. In local government, we are involved in many local governments, municipalities. We never put conditions like we want position A. But at national level, if the United Democratic Movement will be part of those negotiations after elections, we will simply table our manifesto. That will be a guiding Bible for us to negotiate in order to participate in the coalition government. But we will work with any political party in this country. We have no preconditions.
And in terms of the realistic hopes of the UDM when it comes to this year's elections, we know in 1999 when it participated in the first elections, you had 14 seats. Now it has only 2 seats. What are the realistic ambitions of the UDM going into this year's elections?
I wish the voters can trust us once more, because we have been consistent in what we pronounce publicly. Whether it's talking of anti-corruption, promoting ethics of good governance, leading in parliament. You remember we went to Concord to win the secret ballot system. We were also in the vanguard when we said, ESCOM, you cannot switch off the lights for police stations, hospitals and schools. UDM has been consistent. We know our story. And we are going to come back again against against all odds.
Okay. And just lastly from myself, you have been at the helm for almost 3 decades now of the UDM. Any chance that you might give others a chance?
As long as you still have political dinosaurs occupying the union buildings, forget. Okay. But on a serious note, I'm sure you have noticed that I'm grooming a lot of young people. They were running the show today. One of them is Deputy President, is young, and the Secretary General is the youngest, 35 years old. One day when they are ready, they will whisper to me. I know the language. So far, they are still wanting me to be around them.
Thank you so much for that chance to speak to you. That is the UDM President, Bantu Holomisa, who just recently today launched the manifesto for his party. And he says that despite being at the helm for almost 3 decades now, he still has a lot to give to the organizations and to South Africans as well. The UDM is one of those parties that are going to be taking part in the national and provincial elections on the 29th of May, Hugo.
Juniour, thanks very much for that. Some interesting issues that were raised by UDM leader Bantu Holomisa as he announced his party's election manifesto. I mean, he talked about issues particularly around corruption, issues around fiscal discipline, sector banks for the youth and people with disabilities. He talked about a consistent economic policy. Very, very important factors. But do South Africa have appetite for his type of politics, do you think?
That's a very interesting question, Hugo, because even in his manifesto launch, we know that the UDM has a lot of strong support in the Eastern Cape, but they launched the manifesto here in Gauteng, so maybe that is the UDM trying to tap into a different electorate and try and bring and get support maybe from Gauteng as well. Of the 10 leaders of the UDM at the top level, 9 of them are from the Eastern Cape and only 1 is from KZN. So the party has actually been focused a lot on the Eastern Cape. So we are supposing that the move and switch to come to the Gallagher estate and launch the manifesto here is trying to expand its support base. But speaking about the issues that they raised, they spoke a lot about how they are going to basically deal with some of those challenges. In 2019, when the party launched its manifesto, they actually just left it to the electorate. When it comes to economy, they had said that they are going to hold an economic summit and speak to South Africans and seek to find solutions from that economic summit. When it comes to foreign policy as well, in 2019, they had indicated that the foreign policy will actually be directed by South Africans. Whatever South Africans wanted would then be the direction with which the UDM would take. But this time around, it was a bit solution-based when it comes to the manifesto itself. They spoke about load shedding and said that the ANC has not been honest on what has been causing load shedding. So the UDM will actually go to other countries that have successfully dealt with this issue of load shedding and have a better energy security and try and seek solutions from those individuals. They also say that they will try and get engineers from other countries who have successfully dealt with the load shedding and also bring them into the country. So it was more of a solution-based attempt by the UDM to try and woo South Africans. But you're right, the party has been in power for over, it has been in the political discourse politics and political landscape for about 27 years now. And since then, the electoral support has been declining. In 1999, when it first participated in elections, they had about 14 seats in the National Assembly. But as we speak right now, they only have 2 seats. And we have to wait and see if they are going to retain to the National Assembly, Hugo.
Juniour, final question. I'm going to ask you to put your political cap on around this next question and the importance of coalition politics. Now, Bantu Holomisa has said that they will work with any party post the election. How important is it to have those conversations this side of the election, do you think, and garnering some form of support? Because he clearly makes several points that answer the questions that many voters in South Africa have.
Following the elections, South Africa basically has about a week to 2 weeks to basically announce the executive, and so that is not enough time to basically put together a governance structure. So that is why parties such as the DA, such as Action SA, have decided to have a pre-elections coalition agreement. We know that the UDM and its leader, Bantu Holomisa, were actually invited to that sit-down by the DA, by Action SA, and all of those parties that have now formed the multi-party charter, so that at least they have a basic understanding on this is what is going to happen should the elections not bring about a clear winner. But the UDM was unhappy about the way in which the DA was approaching those negotiations. Holomisa himself at the time said that the DA was bringing this big brother attitude to the negotiations. So they have basically chosen to keep their options open when it comes to the issue of coalitions. They know that at this point, should the elections not bring about an outright winner, they can still go into bed with the ANC, or they can go with the multi-party charter. So I guess that UDM is playing a long game where it has its options open until the very last moment, Hugo.
Juniour Khumalo coming to us from Midrand in Gauteng. Appreciate your time.